Welcome back to Coffee and Conversation. So for all you Audie fans, we have a relatively nice day. It's still cold, it's barely above freezing, but it's bright and sunny. So Audie is sitting in the front window, feeling sorry for himself because all the neighborhood snow is gone. He doesn't even have snow to envy in the neighbors' yards. So we'll see if he shows up. In fact, he did not want to go out for like 2 or 3 days, but sun's out, so he did want to go back out today. So I think he's sort of cycling himself out of the depressed state of mind he got into. Too bad there are no kitty psychiatrists. Yellow. And we have the yellow in the necklace, and this is for Lex's mom, for Catherine, for everyone who is coping with cancer. We are just throwing out our very, very best wishes to you, to all your loved ones, because I've said this before, I'll probably say it again. Cancer does not just impact the cancer patient. They do not exist in a vacuum. They have a whole network of people who care for them who are just as strongly impacted. So yes, best wishes to everyone involved. So I had an interesting experience this week, and I wanted to share it with you because it might well be helpful. And we're going to get into that when we come back after the intro. So, my experience, I cleaned out one of my kitchen cabinets, and I was absolutely amazed and appalled by some of the things that ended up going into the trash. The worst, oh dear, I'm going to be brave and admit this. The worst was a package of Jello that expired in 2016. So yeah, that had been sitting in my cabinet, obviously for 9 years, more than 9 years, because nine years ago it expired. So yeah, Lord only knows how long that had been there. That was the worst, and fortunately there was only one from 2016. There were a couple of things from 2017, and yeah, we're just going to focus on that Jello. The fact is, I had to take a look at how I got myself into that situation in the first place. And before we talk about that, let me show you what the cabinet looks like now. And, well, I'm sorry. This was after the initial cleaning. I went back in and sort of rearranged, tidied it up, and dealt with a few things in there that after the first initial cleaning, I realized, ooh, I should deal with this. So here you go. As you can see from the picture, there's not a lot of stuff in there to begin with, and there shouldn't be. There was a time in my life when my sister came over. She had a home economics project in which she was required to get a package of pre-packaged food and write down all of the ingredients. And we had to scramble through the cabinet. We did find one. So there was a time when I was very happily living without pre-packaged foods. That time was long ago, when it was a lot easier to get raw ingredients, when I had people that I was cooking for. It wasn't just me alone. And I simply prioritized that. These days, my idea of dinner is a sandwich, a package of soup, a can of soup. Oh, Yeah, there's a can of clam chowder in that cabinet that I have to get rid of. I I honestly just don't have that lifestyle anymore. So now I do have more prepackaged food. And this is processed food. This is not like real food. You know, you pick it up, you know what it is. If the label came off any random one of those cans, I would be stuck. I would not know what it is. On the other hand, if I go into the vegetable drawer in my refrigerator, I can identify everything. So I'm thinking maybe I need to deal with that, but not right now, not today, because primarily I am interested in trying to figure out what got me into a situation in which my cabinet was crazy overloaded. And I'm sorry I didn't take a picture of that. I really wish I had. The truth is I might not show it to you because it might have been far too embarrassing. But I started to see some common threads. That box of Jello, that box was one of about a dozen or so packages of Jello and Jello brand pudding that for some reason I thought I ought to keep. I don't know why. The problem I have is with bulk buying. And you got to know, my mother's sitting on my shoulder over this saying, yes, but you'll save money. I go into the store and I will see things like, oh, look, avocados are $1 a piece. But if I buy 4 of them, I'll get the 4 of them for $3.50. By the way, that is the running price of avocados here locally this time of year. So, because I know some of my friends overseas often wonder about what we pay for things. And yeah, that's what it is. Now, an avocado, as I know from personal experience, goes from ripe to deceased in about 3 days. So when I go into the store, even if I'm saving 50 cents on those 4 avocados, unless I plan to eat them one after the other over the next 3 days, I'm actually going to end up losing money because I will end up throwing 2 of them away. That happens to me all the time because I am getting penny wise and pound foolish, as my grandmother would say. I don't think my mother ever did say that. Remember, my mother is the one who would drive across town to save 3 cents on a can of peas. She really would. I've seen her do it. I lost sight of the fact that 4 avocados I am not eating for $3.50 is probably going to work out to 2 avocados I am eating, 2 avocados I'm throwing away. So the cost of each one of those avocados is like $1.75. Period. I would be smarter to just pick up the 1 avocado I actually want, pay $1 for it, not worry about that bulk buying discount. Because stores do that. They want us to buy more. They don't care that I'm throwing half of this stuff away. I've paid for it. What difference does it make to them? Once I buy it, take it out of the store, it's not their problem anymore. They've made their money. So they are going to do everything in their power to encourage me to do this. I simply need to be smart and say, no, I want 1 avocado and not look past that. My mother is complaining, just so you know. I can hear her voice in my ear, but you'd save 50 cents on that 4th avocado. Like, yeah, but I'm not going to eat that 4th avocado. And when I started looking at the things I was throwing away, things that were sitting in the cabinet for too long, it was reminding me of the other things like the fresh produce that is not sitting in a cabinet. It's sitting in the refrigerator and it's getting thrown away on a weekly basis. So I am wasting an incredible amount of money. simply because I am getting sucked in to this. It's a merchandising gimmick that somehow it's better if I buy more. And let me give you an example. This isn't food related, but it will show you how bad I can be about this. These are nail brushes. I'm willing to bet there are at least 24 nail brushes in this box. And this is not including the nail brush that's sitting next to the kitchen sink, the one that's sitting next to the bathroom sink, the one that's in the shower, the one that lives in my shoebox, it's got a nice handle on it, that I can use to clean off the soles of my shoes. Oh, the one that's in my handbag. Yeah, you can see the problem. Nobody needs that many. I have enough nail brushes here so that every single nail, all 10 of my fingers, all 10 of my toes, could each have their own designated nail brush. That's a problem. And why did I do it? Because I got a good deal on buying like 24 nail brushes. That's why. I allowed myself to get sucked into the marketing. I would have been a lot smarter even if the per item cost was higher by simply buying 3 or 4 nail brushes. I'd still have one for every room in the house, but I wouldn't have spent as much money as I spent for that whole box full. And now I wouldn't be looking at this saying, yeah, I got to get rid of these because this is crazy. I shouldn't be wasting valuable storage space on a nail brush that probably, I'd be willing to bet this cost me about 50 cents. I probably got a dozen or two of these for maybe $10. So yeah, I am wasting valuable storage space on something like this. So I need to be mindful of this and think this through a little better because, like I say, that's one of the things that is killing me. That is what loaded up my cabinet. There were so many unused items, just like never opened in the package, that had to be disposed of because it's not just that they were a little bit past the expiration date. The can of clam chowder in that cabinet is a little bit past the expiration date. But a 9-year-old box of Jello, at that point, you're probably taking your life in your hands if you decided to make that needed. Too many things like this. And meanwhile, I got my mother right here saying, but it's a better deal. No, 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 Mom, it's not. If I only need 1 or 2 items, no matter how much savings I get for 10 items, I'm still paying more for the 1 or 2 items I need, throwing the rest away. So I should simply scale down to begin with. My apologies for, as you can see, my hair is getting long. I am letting it grow out before I cut it, and it's starting to get on my nerves. I'm probably going to go and get a bobby pin or something. In my cabinet, I have 2 quart bottles of soy sauce. Who needs 2 quarts of soy sauce? I do. This is what really undercuts me. The reason I need 2 quart bottles of soy sauce is because, we've talked about this before, I try to keep the sodium out of my diet, and I found a brand of low sodium soy sauce. It has the lowest sodium content of any soy sauce I have ever seen. I have to get it through Amazon in 2 1-quart bottles. It's soy sauce. It lasts indefinitely. That makes sense because, in fact, sooner or later I will use it. I use up those 2 quarts in the space of a year. I ordinarily have to reorder that once a year. And am I willing to sacrifice some cabinet room to the lower sodium soy sauce? You bet I am. That is something that I need. And the fact of the matter is, if I don't have the low sodium available, I will go out to a store and get soy sauce that might be marked low sodium, but has much more sodium than this. So yes, I know what I will do. I know how I will behave if I don't have that stuff in my home. And you hit a point where you just say, okay, maybe it's just a little bit of soy sauce. No, anything like that, any habit you get into that jeopardizes your fundamental health and wellness needs to go. So, yeah, I'm not going to get into that nonsense of I can't store all of this. I'll just go to the store and buy whatever is handy. No, that is a habit that undercuts my health and wellness. I cannot engage in that. I just can't, because I'm not 18 anymore, and I don't have the robust health of a teenager to allow me to fiddle around with things like my sodium intake. No, I've got to be more careful. So the problem is, every time I will look at a dozen boxes of Jello that have been sitting in there too long, I remember the soy sauce and say, yeah, but this one makes sense. But that doesn't mean the other one makes sense. So just because I have given myself permission to hoard soy sauce, and sometimes I swear to you, that's what it feels like. I am hoarding soy sauce. Just because I've given myself permission to do that does not mean I should be doing the same thing with Jello or any of the other nonsense that I ended up having to get rid of. And I mentioned that I had done some subsequent cleaning. And let's just take a look at that cabinet picture again. Top shelf, what you see on the top shelf are 2 containers of white sugar. They're little white sugar cubes. And I don't use sugar. I don't use sugar in anything. I keep that because somebody might come to my house and want a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, and they might need sugar in it. So I threw one of them away and said, no, you're going. Absolutely got rid of it. 1 container of sugar that I am never going to use is more than adequate. The other container is brown sugar, and if I do happen to use sugar in something, I'm far more likely to use brown sugar, but the simple truth of the matter is I should probably get rid of that too, because again, I'm not using it. That is one of my just in case. And yes, there should be room for just in case things. Just in case somebody comes over, wants a cup of tea, wants some sugar in it, of course. Even if I don't ordinarily use that in my own life, I do need to keep that for guests. I understand that. But I don't need to keep quite as much as I am keeping. So I need to rethink that one. Other things that ended up scooting out were the jar of peanut butter. And you might be able to see that at the very back of the middle shelf. It has a blue lid on it. And yeah, I have no idea how long that had been there. I have no idea when I last ate peanut butter. I think this is some sort of carryover from my childhood, that I feel I need to keep a jar of peanut butter. No, I don't. I wasn't using it, and yes, I was nice and brutal about that and got rid of it. Another interesting thing that I noticed in the cabinet, the lower shelf of that cabinet is just about at my eye level. So I never noticed that the bottom shelf on that cabinet was very badly stained. And I need to take care of that. Oh, by the way, the easiest way to do this, and this is exactly what I'm going to do, is you get a roll of contact paper that matches the interior of your cabinet. Mine is white, so that's easy. And just lay a strip of contact paper over it. That simple. Because whatever that nonsense is up there, it's not coming off. And because, like I said, it was eye level, I wasn't looking down on it. And I didn't see it. I didn't notice it. And that's actually very embarrassing when I realized it's so dirty looking. And I was completely unaware of that. So, yeah, it's a good thing that I actually did that cleaning and reorganizing. The other thing you may notice from the cabinets is a boatload of storage jars. Because, yeah, I buy stuff and I store it. I am leaving the jars there for now because they are, in fact, useful. And I may actually end up using them for something. But if I don't use them within a certain period of time, they are going to have to go too. Because, and we've gone through this before when we were talking about how to approach downsizing, how to approach streamlining and decluttering. One of the rules was, hey, you can buy it again. Well, if I don't use them quickly enough, I'm going to get rid of them because, yeah, I can buy them again. They are not the only storage jars in the world. So I need to be a little mindful of that. Right now, as I say, I felt so good about having cleaned out, the 9-year-old Jello and all the rest of the stuff that I decided I would just let myself keep the storage jars for a few more weeks, months, not years. I got to put a limit on that. And then get rid of them if, in fact, I am not using them within a reasonable period of time. But I found this to be a remarkably informative exercise. First of all, I got a reorganized cabinet out of it. I got a lot more space in my cabinet than I had before because previously that was packed with expired stuff. And I also was able to identify a problem I have that I should have recognized, but I did not. It should have occurred to me that bulk buying was not my friend. And it wasn't until I started realizing so much of that stuff was the result of bulk buying and then ending up throwing it away. And of course, one thing leads to another because, as you know, I love the math. And I started automatically shifting my thoughts over to, well, how much did I save buying things that I wasn't going to use and was going to throw away? And, if 10 items cost you $10 and one item costs you $3, that one $3 item is the smarter buy if you're going to throw away 9 out of those 10 items. It's not immediately apparent to us, but all you have to do is stop and think about it for a minute. And I was not doing that. I was not thinking it through. And so now I have to be mindful of that. As I say, avocados, Lord, they are my danger zone because the stores do heavily market avocados. They will give you a price break if you buy 4. But if I'm going to throw 2 of them away, what kind of price break is that? All kinds of produce end up like that. So I'm seeing this spill into all kinds of areas of my life. Buying something that is on sale just because it is on sale is... Did I ever tell you? Yeah, you can't answer me. I'm going to tell you anyway. I don't know if I ever told you about my high school Spanish teacher who bought an elephant because it was on sale. I swear to you, this is the gospel truth. My Spanish teacher bought an elephant because it was on sale. Now, this was in Rhode Island, and we were in the city, and she bought an elephant. I guess it was delivered. She lived at home with her mother, by the way. She was a single woman, so it's not as if her children went hungry over this. And she was a Spanish teacher. She had a good job. Still, elephant in her backyard. Meanwhile, her mother was railing at her nonstop, like 24 hours a day. There's an elephant in my backyard. Do something about this. She eventually donated the elephant to a local zoo, but she bought it because it was on sale. The elephant ordinarily sold for $1,000, and she got it for $665. 33.33% off. She couldn't resist. I have never forgotten that. And that would have been, well, I was in high school, so more than 50 years ago. I am just picturing her yard with an elephant in it in the city. That stayed with me because that was the perfect example of just because something is on sale doesn't mean it's a good buy. Even knowing that, even having this story like right there in my head, because let's face it, that is a great high school story. Even having a story like that in my head, I still fall into exactly the same trap. So now I have to rethink how silly I thought my Spanish teacher was for doing that, because I'm not doing it to the same extent that she is. It's not an elephant, but it's a moldering avocado. It's 9-year-old Jello. I'm doing the same thing. Here. It's 24 nail brushes. The problem is, and here's where the flaw in my reasoning went. She ended up paying $666 for an elephant that she didn't need just because it was on sale. Okay? I ended up paying perhaps $10 for the excess amount of nail brushes I don't need. But will I do that again 60 some odd times? Yeah, I will. Yeah, I will. I know this. I can absolutely tell you. I may have, in fact, already in my lifetime done that. So I owe Miss Pache an apology. I really do, because I thought she was like half out of her mind for that. And I'm doing the same thing. But I didn't recognize it because it's not an elephant. But the thing is, it is an elephant. It is. It's just a smaller avocado green elephant. It's a smaller elephant in a Jello box. And that was my takeaway. I have got to stop thinking that I need to buy more than what I need simply because I'll save money on it. No, I won't. I absolutely will not. Now, where I'm going to give myself space for this is it's okay to buy in bulk if I'm actually going to use it. So what are some of the things we can buy in bulk? For me, toilet paper. I can buy toilet paper in bulk if I can figure out where to store it and it doesn't get in my way because, yeah, it's toilet paper. It will get used. And there may be other little things like that I just go through. Okay, I was about to say toothpaste, but the problem is I do kind of bulk buy toothpaste, and I have not had to buy toothpaste for the last 3 years because I bought so much of it about 5 years ago. So I need to bring this to bear, even in terms of toilet paper. Because if I'm willing to make an exception for toilet paper, I should be willing to make an exception for toothpaste. Because on that same reasoning, it's toothpaste. Of course I'm going to use it sooner or later. But am I going to use it in a timely enough way to justify the non-financial cost. So this is the cost in space, in time, in emotional fretting over this, that it would cost me to store it, to have to look at this all the time. It's like, oh yeah, there's my toilet paper cabinet, because right now I've practically got a toothpaste cabinet. I really need to reconsider all of this. And in the few minutes I spent discussing that with you, oh gosh, I love you folks so much. You are the best therapists ever, because just talking to you about it, and I realize that I'm still justifying it in my head. I'm still giving myself permission to keep doing this, even though I've already recognized that it was a problem. I recognized that it was a problem more than 50 years ago when my Spanish teacher bought an elephant. I had no excuse for falling into this, except, that usual excuse. Oh, in my case, it's different. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. So yeah, I really need to get out of this buying it because eventually I'm going to use it. Yeah, I probably will eventually manage to use all of that toothpaste. I probably will. And if I start hoarding toilet paper, I will probably use that too. But is it worth it? And is it not encouraging me to buy more avocados than I am going to eat? Buying food that I am throwing away. See, that shut my mother up. She may be a bargain lover, but throwing away food. This is a woman who was born in the Great Depression, who lived through the Second World War. Throwing away food was like a cardinal sin in her book. So finally, I managed to shut my mother up. Okay, good. Because that's what it results in. When I cleaned out my cabinet, I was throwing away a lot of food. And I had every intention of cooking and eating that food when I bought it. But, the best laid plans of mice and men, I'll go ahead. Correct me, Ann, on this. It's gang off to glee. Okay, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. But I actually did read it in its original, and I do know it, so that's the problem with buying too much. It may look like a good idea today. It may look like you're saving money, saving time. I don't have to go back to the store for toothpaste. But who knows what's going to happen between now and the time you're going to use it. You could move. You could simply have to pack all that stuff up and pay a moving company to relocate it for you. This could turn out to be a very foolish investment. So I have to say that is something I've got to jump on that. So I thought I would share this with you because, in fact, I figured this might be useful. Some of you may be making the same mistake. I'm sure very few of you have the example of my Spanish teacher and her elephant to rely on, but I did. I was making a mistake. I learned that mistake 50-some years ago, still made it, and even as I was talking to you about it, I was continuing to justify. Oh, but I can keep toilet paper. I can keep toothpaste. No. It's the same thing. And it's just not an elephant. So yeah, that is something I'm really, really going to have to work on. And I've got a lot of these nail brushes. I have no idea what I'm going to do with all of these. I doubt I'm going to find a really good use for them, but I will probably keep a half a dozen or so, because I bet they're good for cleaning and scrubbing little tight corners in the kitchen or the bathroom. That won't be a total waste. But I don't know. As for everything else, well, as I say, I ended up throwing away a lot of food. Shut my mother up. But I can't help but feel that throwing away food in a world in which children are going to bed hungry at night, oh, I think my mother was right. That probably is a very serious sin. And that is something that should be avoided at all costs. So I have to work on that, because I'm not sure I can feel good about myself if I am wasting food. I have to. And yes, it is my mother. That is my mother coming back, and she's just spitting new garbage in my ear. But the truth of the matter is, can any of us feel good wasting resources when we know other people are doing without? Just that simple. So, that is what I have for you. Thank you all for being my therapists yet again. Gosh, I love having the opportunity to talk to you about these things. I do it because I'm hoping that my process will resonate with you, but I get so much out of it too. So thank you. Thank you all for helping me through this bizarre 9-year-old Jello predicament. And I do believe that I'm going to come out the other end in a better situation. Now, we're going to take a look at a slideshow on the way out. I know I have gone over time, and thank you for indulging me. And I hope to see you tomorrow. And in the meantime, have a terrific day.